Every time you tell someone your next big plan, you get a small piece of satisfaction before you've actually even done anything. You tell people that you're starting a business, or you tell people you're going to change your body, you're rebuilding your life, or you're changing your careers, or even maybe you're writing a book. And for a moment, it might feel good. It might feel a bit of satisfaction, a bit of forward momentum is building. People will encourage you. They ask questions. They tell you, wow, that sounds exciting. That's great. And you begin imagining the finished result. And emotionally, it can almost feel as though you've already achieved the result or you've started becoming that person. But then conversation ends and the actual work still sits there waiting for you to do it. So maybe the best thing you can do for your next goal is simply do not announce it. Not because you need to become, some secretive, mysterious being, not because everybody around you wants you to fail, but because some plans are too fragile to be exposed to everybody else's attention before they've even had time to become real. Talking alone can feel like progress. There is a big difference between talking about doing something and actually doing it. But emotionally, the two can sometimes feel surprisingly similar, and the brain may not know no difference. You describe the vision, you explain what you're going to build, you imagine how people will react when it works, and you receive some of the recognition before you've even earned the result. This can reduce the urgency to act because the conversation gave you the emotional reward that should have come from actually doing the work. You've probably met people who are always about to start to do something, always about to go to the gym, or always about to change their job, or always about to build a business, or always about to write a book. They're starting training on Monday, creating a YouTube channel next Tuesday, leaving a job that they hate, changing their entire life overnight. But months pass, months and months, and they're still describing the plan. And sometimes we all become that person. I'm not fallible. I've been that person myself, and that's probably why I can speak on it so well, because I understand what it is to talk about something and what it is to actually do the thing. Talking is easy because it gives you the identity without demanding the sacrifice. And you have to make the sacrifice. You can call yourself a creator without publishing anything. Easy. You can say that you're rebuilding your life without changing the habits that damaged it. The plan becomes part of your personality, but never becomes your reality. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you want your plans to become your reality, not just your personality. You know, Other people can weaken an idea before it even begins. Another problem is that everybody has an opinion. You tell somebody your idea and immediately they begin explaining why it won't work or why their idea is better or that you should do X, Y, and Z. Oh, you should do this because of that and you should do that because of this. The market is too crowded. You're too old. You don't have enough money. You don't know the right people. Somebody else has already done that. Somebody else is already doing it. Maybe they genuinely care for you. Maybe they do. Maybe they're just trying to protect you from disappointment. But they're judging the idea from their own confidence, experience, and appetite for risk, not yours. And I think if your self belief is fragile, or if it is still fragile, their doubt can become your doubt. You begin questioning something you were excited about 10 minutes before having the conversation. You start changing the plan to make it more acceptable to the people who were never going to understand it anyway. Or you may just simply abandon the plan completely before you even collected any real evidence whether it could work or not. There are times when advice is valuable, and definitely seek good advice from good people. You should listen to people who understand the area or have relevant experience and are willing to tell you the truth. But not every opinion deserves equal access to your plans. Some people are just judging the first sketch as though it's the finished painting. Some people are judging the first painting as though it's your full gallery display. Some ideas need protection while they're still taking shape. I think talking creates pressure that you don't need. You say you're going to do something, you say you're going to start a business, you're writing a book, you're doing X, Y, or Z. And then people start asking you, well, have you launched it yet? How much money have you made? How much money has the business made? Have you lost the weight? Did you get the new job? And if progress is slower than you expected, you begin feeling embarrassed. Instead of concentrating on the actual work, you concentrate on how, the work looks to everybody else, which is not good. You know, you might rush something before it's ready. You might pretend things are going better than what they actually are. Or you might avoid the people you told just simply because you don't want to admit you haven't followed through and you don't want to lose face. The goal was supposed to improve your life. Now it becomes another source of anxiety. And that's why working quietly feels powerful and is powerful. You know, you remove the audience, you remove the need to actually impress anybody. You don't even need to impress yourself. You just need to do the thing. You need to tick off the boxes, keep the promises. You give yourself permission to be bad at the beginning. You know, you can experiment, you can fail, you can change direction, you can improve without having to explain anything to anybody in every step which you take. The focus from proving that you're going to do something to actually doing it, you know, which is a big step. You have to let the work build your confidence. You know, this is a big thing again, which I've spoke about many a time before in other videos on a different channel. But a lot of people expect that confidence just falls from the sky, or one day you'll just wake up feeling confident. But real confidence doesn't come from repeatedly announcing, you know, who you're going to become, or just staring yourself in the mirror and telling yourself you're confident. Although that can work for a short period of time, you know, but ultimately confidence comes from gathering the evidence that you can trust yourself. For example, if you want to be a confident public speaker, then you have to do public speaking, and you have to maybe talk to yourself in the mirror beforehand, but ultimately you have to go and do the thing, because doing the thing gives you the evidence that you can do the thing. And then you learn something. You know, you learn, well, I can do it. I didn't fumble into a wet pile of water. You actually did the thing you wanted to do, even though it gave you a little bit of anxiety. You said you would train, and so you train. You know, you said you would upload a video, and you uploaded the video. You said you would save some money, and you left the money untouched. You said you would finish the project and kept returning to it when the excitement disappeared. You know, those promises matter. Every little promise and every little step in the right direction compound. You know, every time you keep one, you ultimately strengthen your identity, which builds confidence. You know, not the identity you describe to other people, but the identity demonstrated by your behavior. That is much harder to take away. You know, praise can disappear, and it often does. It comes and goes fast. People stop believing in you. You know, the plan might take longer than expected. I know that better than anybody. I mean, probably not better than anybody, because some people's plans come together when they're 40, 50, 60, or even 70, you know, or even sometimes after you die, especially if you are planning to become an artist. You know, often artists' work become mega successful and sell for millions and billions and trillions of millions once they are dead. So is that artist then successful? Who knows? Anyway, digressing quite a bit there. I think ultimately, if you build a pattern of keeping promises to yourself, you can continue without needing anybody else to validate what you're doing. We live in a world of external validation. We live in a world where people seek external validation constantly, whether it's on social media, whether it's out in public, you know, having to look a certain way, to feel a certain way, to get eyeballs directed at them. You know, this gives them validation. Receiving compliments. This is a form of validation. Probably less so for men than it is for women, but seeking validation externally is chasing a dragon. You know, it's never going to fulfill you. But you can get internal validation from your own actions, and that will be fulfilling. And this is how you will ultimately reach self-actualization. In whichever area of life you are planning to reach self-actualization in, it will come from internal validation, not from external validation. You can't get likes on a picture to the point where you feel fulfilled in life. I mean, maybe you can, but I've never seen it happen. This doesn't mean that all of this doesn't mean you never tell anybody anything, because that's ridiculous as well. We are social creatures at the end of the day. You know, I'm not saying that you should hide everything. Accountability can be useful. You know, a trusted friend or a coach or a partner can help you stay focused. And some goals require collaboration. Some goals require other people to be involved. But there is a difference between sharing a plan with one person who can genuinely help and announcing it repeatedly because you enjoy the reaction and you enjoy the sound of yourself talking about your plans. Before telling somebody, ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Do I need advice? Do I need practical help? Am I asking to be held accountable? Or do I simply want to feel like the person who already achieved it? Do I want to feel like the person who's already doing it, even though you know you are not? The answer will tell you many things. Build first, explain later. Some of the strongest periods of your life will be the ones where nobody fully understands while you're living through them. You know, nobody really gets what you're doing. Nobody really gets where you're going next. Nobody really understands your next move. And you may look quiet from the outside. You may look boring. You appear to be moving slowly. But beneath the surface, you're building discipline, knowledge, money, strength, momentum, skills. Networks. You know, you don't need everybody to believe in your plans. You don't need to convince them that this time will be different. You know, I stopped doing this a long time ago. I stopped telling people these sort of things a long time ago. And having been locked in for about a year now, things feel different. You know, my life's not fixed. Everything isn't perfect. Far from it. I'm nowhere near self actualization in many areas of life, except from my bench press strength. Uh, Recently achieving a 180 kilogram bench press is a lifetime goal. Digressing again, you don't need to defend something that doesn't yet have results behind it. You can use your energy simply to do the work. You know, you just don't need everybody to believe in your plans. As long as you believe in your plans, you don't need to convince them that you know, your plans are actually going to come to fruition. Speak less, build longer. You know, let the finished thing explain what you were doing, because one day when it is all built, when it is all ready, it will appear from the outside that one day you was just moving slowly, not really doing much, and then all of a sudden, people will be asking, "How did you do that? How did that come to fruition?" And the quiet work done for months or weeks or years is what will have made that thing come true. Will made will have made your life change dramatically. And often people pay that little attention to what's actually going on that it will seem like you may have made overnight success. But what they won't see is the thousands of hours that you put into whatever it is that you're doing. And that's generally what it takes. You know, it's very rare that you will get overnight success and just be shot to the stars for ultimate fame and glory in one fell swoop. It's just not going to happen. But if you work on something time and time again, and you learn and you learn and you learn, and you never give up, and you remain persistent, consistent, and resilient, you will get there. Plans are easy to announce. Results are impossible to ignore. Move in silence and let the work make the noise. This is Jake O'Neill Talks, honest commentary on modern life.